I had a phrase.
Yes,
Remember
good.
Alan Elliott, he got to go home this Friday.
Wow.
He's at home this Friday, so he's recovering.
Like home where?
As in out of the hospital.
You saw it.
We did mention that Angelina and Ben had their baby this week. We should have said that. I know the one name is Luke, and the first one is
No, it's Leonidas.
Leonidas.
Leonidas,
Leonidas.
whatever, Luke Price.
Leonidas, I couldn't come up with that middle syllable.
That's a humdinger of a name, that poor kid.
They'll stick with the
Yeah, LL, yeah, very good. So this morning I'll be preaching in Matthew as we've been doing on Sunday mornings. I'm going to take a tangent from the text and basically do the last 24 hours that led up to the cross, which is kind of just did a little analysis of what that looks like by each hour building to that point. And then we'll celebrate the Lord's Supper. So for anyone who's new at church, we do that about every other month. We have baptisms the opposite months. So usually a handful of baptisms a year and a handful of Lord's Suppers. And we usually do the Lord's Supper 1 month in the morning and 2 months later in the evening. So a lot of workers we just do the mornings, we kind of rotate them back and forth. So the Lord's Supper is open to anyone who's a believer. And so if this is new to you, there's no saving merit in it. Doesn't save your soul. You're saved by faith in Christ alone. But if we know the Lord, it helps us to remember his body that was crucified and his blood that was shed for the forgiveness of sins. That's a great part of our worship. It just reflects what Christ has done for us personally. So make sure you're right with God, enjoy worshiping the Lord before it's up at the end. So this will promote that. I was going to continue through the book of Ecclesiastes today, but Callie asked that we back up a little bit. She said it was negligent in overlooking the 31st chapter of Proverbs, so I'm going to camp out on that. She said this would be good for us ladies, and obviously for us men to know what to look for in a woman. The book of Proverbs is maybe the most highly structured book in all the Bible. When you begin reading it, it looks really random and just what's the design of it, but it's extremely organized, Remember, Solomon was given by God immeasurable wisdom, just incredible wisdom, skill, and that skill is seen in his writing. And so it shouldn't surprise us that when we look at his 2 Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon, that the skill, the literary skill that he uses in his writings are just off the chart. So when we get to chapter 31 in a moment, the book begins with Lady Wisdom, personification of wisdom in the form of a lady, and then the book ends with a virtuous lady. So the wise lady and the virtuous lady, they're kind of the bookends to the book. The whole book, all 31 chapters, is an echiastic structure. Within the book itself, chapter by chapter, is echiastic structures. You have techniques called purling, where he takes one word and he finishes a unit and takes that one word and drops it into the next unit to kind of tie them all together, make them together. He uses every literary skill known to man in this book. So it is, don't let anyone say, well, it's just a random disorganized book. You got too big, kid. The whole thing is unbelievably designed. It's designed by a mind greater than any human being. Just from a literary, no one can, it's just baffling the complexity of it. So it may look simple on the outside, which is good, but there's quite a design, and that doesn't surprise us that designer God gives us literature that is off the chart. And so there's some really neat stuff going on. So we'll look at the last chapter then. The last 22 verses is the story of the virtuous woman, virtuous wife. Up to this point, Solomon's writing his son. He says, "My son, give me your heart. My son, do this. My son." And what Solomon's trying to teach his boys is the kind of man they need to become. He's glad to see you alive. He was up high. How high did you get? Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. Thanks for letting me know you get off the number. We're in Proverbs 31. So what we have here is this incredible story of this woman, but up to this point, it's telling men how to be men. And if there's ever a time in history where men are wimpy and horrible, and weak and puny and just not really good, is this day that we live in. And that's just not the young men, it's just old men and between men. There's the lost art of godly manhood, real men, and it's God used them. And so the book's really helpful for us guys to be what we need to be. But it also is a book here as it ends for what women need to be. And if you're the right kind of man, you're looking for the right kind of woman. If you're the right kind of woman, you're looking for the right kind of man. And it kind of goes together. Okay. So enough of that awkward stuff. All right. So these 22 verses, whenever you see a psalm with 22 verses or a Hebrew unit with 22 verses, you have to at least ask the question, is it an acrostic? And this is another amazing design in the scriptures, another technical point. But you have 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, you have 26 in our English alphabet, obviously. How many is in your language? 22? 28. Okay. So different languages, different number of letters. So Hebrew 22. So the first verse to describe her, we'll look at in a moment, the first word begins with the Hebrew letter Aleph, A. You go to the next verse, the second verse of the 22, it begins with the Hebrew letter Beth. And then the third verse, Gemal, and then Dalet. It goes all the way through the Hebrew alphabet. And so it's in English, we say it's an A to Z list. So whenever you see these A to Z lists, these acrostics, what's being communicated is this is a comprehensive study on whatever the topic is. If you want to know what those Hebrew letters look like, typically in your Bible, Psalm 119, you have 22 units. That's pretty cool, pretty cool. When you look at those 22 units, you will often see the Hebrew letters above each of the 8 verses. So if you go to Psalm 119, you don't need to do it now, but if you did, you'll see Aleph, little kind of scroll, line scroll over the 8 verses. All 8 verses start with A, Aleph. You go to the next 8 verses, they all start with Beth, and goes right to the alphabet. So you can see what those Hebrew letters look like. That's the most sophisticated acrostic in all the Bible. And the main topic of Psalm 119 is the Word of God. So the most important comprehensive study is about the Word itself. But this is big. This is about, what kind of woman you should look for, what kind of woman you need to be. So very, very neat. So it's an acrostic poem. Obviously, the culture of that day is largely agricultural, not completely. You can see other jobs described in the book. You'll see the office of a judge, nobility, a king, an ambassador, a farmer, a herdsman. There's a number of different jobs described for men in the book. But if you can envision kind of an agricultural community, a farming community. I grew up in a farming community. My wife grew up on a dairy farm. So these kind of thoughts, that setting kind of come to my mind. We with our farm, we had a horse farm in upstate New York, about 300 acres, maybe 200 or so of those acres were farmed, largely with hay, alfalfa, those things of that nature. And so we would leave South Carolina, where we were living at the time. We would bring our boys up to the farm, usually in July, to bale hay. I wanted them to be on those fields. I wanted them to get that 95-degree humid afternoons, throwing hay that cuts you, and stacking it cut side up, getting it in the trail in a wagon, and they were stacked in the barn. And my family would usually do 12 to 14,000 of the rectangular bales. So I wanted my boys to get a taste of farm life. It was good. They loved it. They loved it. And they loved it because it's only like 3-4 days a year. For the farmer, it's every single day. Dairy farming, especially like she grew up on, those cows, it's every day, 2 times a day. You're milking, and they take no vacations. And
I knew a man, he had a best of milking morning and night in 26 years. Wow. But he was the person who didn't like crowds. So when he went to his son's graduation, he fainted dead away. He just fainted. Yeah, he couldn't stand the crowds. He did better with the cows.
Yes, and that's true. That's true.
The cows don't judge.
Cows, yeah. So the bragging rights in that dairy farming communities, how many days, months, years have you done milking without a break? That's kind of your bragging rights.
Well, I'm not sure everybody is.
Yeah. Did any of you come from a farming background? I'm just curious.
My grandparents They own a dairy farm until they changed it over to more of a like beaver farm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting because just growing up, whenever we would go out to visit grandparents, sometimes we'd be like, okay, grandparents just come our way and visit us. And then grandpa was like, well, I can't because I got all the cows to take care of. And so grandma would come by herself, and grandpa would stay and do the cows and stuff. So.
And their farm, his grandparents' farm is like 45 minutes from my parents' farm, almost on the same hill in upstate New York. So we may see them next week a little bit.
Just go make a surprise visit to them.
I think we give them a courtesy call, say, hey, we're gonna drop in. But when farmers get together, they're an independent bunch. But when they get together, they they talk shop, talk about their Minnesota molding and their case and their board and their tractors. And, it's great to listen to farmers. I love them. Okay. So anyway, that kind of an agricultural setting here kind of colors the unit. But it begins, let's begin here in verse 10. And I'll just throw some questions out with some of these passages. But here is the question. Who can find a virtuous woman? So this unit is introduced with a question. And what does that suggest? Is the right fact there's a question like this? What does it suggest?
Scarcity of virtuous women.
Yeah. I think it's hinting towards, okay, this is not an easy find. It's like when I jokingly say to the girls that if a man-eating lion got loose and came into our church, it would go hungry. I'm teasing.
Wait, am I supposed to be
Okay. Anyway, yes, but he said there's actually, you can find a virtuous woman, a valiant woman, a woman like this.
There's no men in this church.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You're a man?
I fit in that category, yes.
I'm not a
He's finally getting it.
Okay. So anyway, it's a question, who can find one? And then, and if you do, notice what it says, her price is far above rubies. So if you find such a woman, she's obviously someone that you value, someone who's a real treasure. If you keep a secret, this is really fun. We have a friend in the church. His girlfriend was given this house, long story. The guy was paranoid, he was a lawyer, and he hid guns and knives everywhere through the house. They have found upwards to 100 knives and guns. I mean, this is still everywhere in the house. But they also just found a safe, probably 800-pound safe in the garage. You say, how can you just find that? Well, if you saw the garage, you understand it. So there's stuff. So we went last week, and Lisa tried to break the combination.
They had a combination.
We had a combination, and she had the stethoscope. You should have seen it. And we're
We
gonna,
did get a picture.
it is fun. It's a funny
We
picture.
wanted to send it to our kids, grandkids.
And we did.
You know,
So tomorrow, we obviously couldn't open it. I would tell you what's in it, but my guess is there's 165,000.
Why that specific amount?
Do you need a car by yourself?
Because the lawyer said he had hit 165,000 somewhere. He hasn't found yet. We found gold coins. We found a lot of stuff. So tomorrow we have a safe cracker coming, and I'll let you know what the treasure is. I'll let you know next week.
How do you find a safe cracker? Because that doesn't sound like a legitimate job.
There are times he's not available. Let's say.
we have lots
A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, her value here obviously is far above rubies. And then it's gonna, at least it's kind of good and silly.
So you're saying I was safe.
I'm sorry. I don't take her out very often. All right, so now the value is going to be described. Now we're going to get the itemized subpoints here. So the first thing is the heart of her husband does safely trust in her. So the foundation to this relationship is trust, and you build trust. You create, over time, you build trust with people. to trust in a bank, a relational bank, and you build it, you build and build it, and you don't want to take withdrawals out of it. You put deposits in the bank of trust and relationships. Sometimes you do take withdrawal. That means you messed up and you lost some ground. People don't trust you as much. So in this case, trust is foundational. I'm teaching a class on Wednesday mornings with the Maranatha students. So some of them will be here. And one of my assignments is to read a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of Leadership. It's a really good book. And it has the 5, it's like a pyramid. And the foundational point is you have dysfunction in families or in companies, in this case, when you don't have trust. And it's so true. When you don't trust someone you're working with, or your classmate, or family, how far can you go if you don't trust them? And the more you trust someone, you build, relationships are built on trust. And you treasure that. So here, the husband, the heart of him, he trusts her. And that's extremely important. Trust her with what? Your kids. Trust her with your family's finances. Trust her with whatever. And that's extremely important. And I can brag on my wife. My heart safely trusts in her. I don't have to second guess her or question her or feel threatened or wonder what she's doing. Is there anything, whatever, inappropriate? I never worry about that. It's, I just take that for granted. That's just been our relationship. But obviously, you've seen relationships where trust is shattered. You talk about a divorce situation. If you interviewed that couple, one would probably say, "I don't trust him. I just don't trust him. He did this or said that. I don't trust him." Trust has been violated, and so you have to rebuild it. So anyway, her husband trusts in her safely. She's dependable. She's reliable, so that he shall have no need of spoil. And the word here for spoil is the Hebrew word for spoil as in military. It's a military context. When you take stuff, as part of your victory, you take things alongside. He's not afraid of losing things. No need to spoil. She's not a loser. Okay, that's a good thing. She's a winner. All right, so verse 12, and you can stop me if you want to ask any questions here. And then again, a very generic statement, and he'll dive into what this means. She will do him good and not evil. Well, that's a great thing. There's no guesswork here. There's no Jekyll and Hyde in her. She is just steadfast and does him good and not evil. And it's not for just short spurts. It's for all the days of her life. So this is her story, man. You can count on her, you can back on her. She's just good. She's not perfect, but she's really good. So how many of you, I don't want to embarrass you, but who would say, maybe if you better say this, who would say your mom, and you hear some of these descriptions, boy, my mom was like that. My mom was like that. Who could say that? That's a big thing if you can. None of us always can. But if you have a mom like this, wow. If you have a wife like this, wow. Okay. And then it talks about her in verse 13. You're going to see this over and over. She's extremely industrious. And she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. So she's not afraid to roll up her sleeves and get to work. She's not afraid of work. And a lot of guys are looking for some, what you call them, a doll, or what would be the word? What's that?
I said a Barbie, I'm sorry.
A Barbie doll. Looking for this Barbie doll, that who cries when she breaks a fingernail. And so my daughter-in-law, I'll pick on Stephanie. I've got 2 daughter-in-laws, and they're all really fine girls. I really find her amusing. They have a little farmette. In her picture, she's a beautiful girl. But every time I see her on a video, she's got the black boots that you usually wear into the stalls, the clean stalls. Hairs all over the place, And she has her own business. She has these dogs she is selling. These shepherd doodles, what are they called? Sheepadoodles. She sells sheepadoodles. They have a farm of these sheepadoodles, and she's such a good worker. And she's just beautiful, but she's not afraid of work. And it's neat whenever she comes out. Let's just highlight her for a moment. When she comes out, she'll always say, "Hey, Mom, Senn, what can I do to help? What can I do to help?" She's just always there to help, you know. And whether it's something fun to do or something unpleasant to do, how can I help? Wow, wow, wow. So this girl is very industrious. She works. She's creative. She's productive. Verse 13. Verse 14. She's like the merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. So she's a homespun girl, but she has an eye to other things from other places that she thinks can contribute to the welfare of being that home, and she'll do it. She'll take care of it. And so she's like a mini King Solomon. Solomon imports stuff from all over the world. So does she. So she's on Amazon. You can see her there right with her computer. And I am really, really excited. I just ordered these slippers online. I'm really fun from afar, not from China. So anyway, so she's a good shopper, wise shopper. She seeks quality. She makes things, but she buys those things which are appropriate. Look at verse 15. She rises also while she at night. So she's up in the morning, gives meat or food to her household, portion to her maidens. So she has a pretty good operation here at home, where she has other people working for her. She doesn't let them do all the work. There's a partnership here. They're both working. She's the lead. She's up early. She's not sleeping in. She's not lazy. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive what we're seeing here. Of course, as the ladies hear this, they're saying, "Man, oh man, who can be this? This is your gold standard." You know, we aspire. You know, but this is a big list. This is tough. But for guys, it's, you know, with my boys, I'm not bragging. One quality we wanted to teach them as they grew up, we wanted them to have a good work ethic. I mean, Elisa would not let those boys sleep in. Man, oh man, she'd wear them out. Ooh-wee.
Can I piggyback off of that
Yes,
for a
please.
second? So like, we have an issue at my job right now. That work ethic isn't there. So this week we had a huge meeting between, like, my manager and I had a huge meeting between the rest of, like, with our operations partner about work ethic so like work ethic is a huge thing there. And like and I'm manager there, so I try and lead by example, and then the rest of the team is just disengaged, not wanting to do anything. So that's huge.
This is a huge point. And this is something, we go up to Wyoming. We have our camp up there, it's an unbelievable camp, a lot of ranchers, and they don't trust Colorado people. I get it. You have to build that relationship of trust. And I tell our teams going up there, I said, there's one language they'll understand, and man, they'll appreciate it. You get up there and get the work. Don't be you can talk while you work. You get the work.
Yes.
And that you'll win those guys. Yep. You'll build relationships because they do work. And you also don't ask them how many cows they have out in the field. That's like asking what's in the checkbook. You never ask how many of those do you have? No, that's you don't do that. You can count yourself. Google the fair market value of beef. Okay, you don't ask that. So work ethic, huge. She has a fabulous work ethic. And then verse 16, you were going to say something.
Oh, that's okay. I was just gonna say, our kids would come to us and, you know, they'd say, "I'm on board, I don't have anything."
They only
to
said
do."
that once.
Yeah, usually, because it was, well, I'll give you 5 minutes to find something constructive to do, or I will find something for you.
Okay, Mom, see ya.
And it was never a problem. So our kids, they learned, I think, to use their time more wisely.
Kids who are bored are boring kids. So,
That was my next line.
That was the next one. I love that.
I mean, there's always something to do, whether that be like for children, for anyone, like you can, there's always something to do.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think I overdid it with my kids, and now I've got all 3 of them work like mad, but 2 of them particularly, I'm thinking, slow down.
Yeah, now you got to pull back a little bit. You definitely work.
Yeah.
But a work ethic, you guys are, is the girl undisciplined? Is she not a worker? Is she lazy? She may be knockout gorgeous, but you better go a little deeper than that. Okay, you better see what is her work ethic. And girls, this guy may be be pumped up in the gym right now, but just imagine he'll be 312 pounds in about 6 years after he's married, eating and cooking. You better have character. You better have character. And you want a guy who works. You don't want some guy who's leaning on you to carry it. No way. No way. And that really frustrates me when I get some guy and he's not working. I just want to bring his neck, you know.
I'm right there with you.
Get a job, dude.
I'm right with you.
In the world, be a man. Anyway, so notice in verse 16, I find this interesting. You know, he's trusting her to make decisions. That he isn't controlling her. He isn't manipulating her. He's not, you know, denigrating her. They are equals in their position before Christ. Yes, he's the head of the home, but they work together beautifully. And she goes out, she considers a field. And the verb here, consider, she's looking at a field, she's strategizing. How can if we buy that field, I buy that field. Where do I want to put the gardens? Where's the vineyards go? How much work will it take to move those rocks? And what's the soil like? And she's really she's counting the cost. Can I make that thing work? So she considers a field and buys it. And when we came out here in 2002, I couldn't come out with her to buy a house. So I said, all I want is a view of the mountains, a man cave garage, garage, you know. If you're happy, what's the final study say? If wife is happy, yeah, happy wife. If you're happy, I'm happy with the house. Just go. And she came out here, and it's a pretty big decision to buy a house. And she was, you know, telling me about the one she was looking at. One was one that she really locked down on. That was when we got. You know, it was simple. So,
Did you get the main cave?
three-door garage. Oh yeah.
You got a view. Of course, I looked out every window.
You have to have a view of the mountains in every window.
Ideally, there are a lot of windows.
So glass house.
Almost a glass house. Yeah, and in the garage,
Just don't throw a rock at it.
Yeah, that's right.
the garage, I had a widowmaker waiting for me when I came. So that's a motorcycle, a really fast one. And so Lisa was a little surprised, but when you're moving, families are a little imbalanced and tired, and you can slip things in. And it's easier to get what? Forgiveness. Than permission. So,
Where is that?
strike back all the sense.
Is that what we should correct that trust check?
Yes, I figured maybe.
All right, anyway, she buys the field after she's calculated how it worked. And with the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. And she loves her gardens. She loves her vineyards. She works in the house. She works outdoors. You know, when I go up to see our farm is, I'm bragging, it's immaculate. Not because of me. My folks, they work hard. That place is like a century farm. It is gorgeous. The flower beds, not the vineyards, but the apple trees and the peach trees, and my stepdad has about 100-yard garden, if you can imagine, 100 by, maybe just less than 100 yard by 30 yards, and I just love working that garden with them. And what they do is he has potatoes. We'll go up there and work the soil and pop those potatoes, and with potato forks, pitchforks, load them in the back of the trailer, and then you put them in the burlap bags, and then they go in our guest bedroom. So where we sleep next week in the farm, that's usually not this because I made such a fuss over it. There's like under a bed onions and somewhere.
When you have a garden,
And there's no heat up there, so it stays pretty cold. You see your breath. So I bring antifreeze. It's a joke. It's frozen. It's not. So anyway, she plants the vineyard. Verse 17. She girds her loins with strength, strengthen her arms. To gird up your loins typically means they have these long robes, and they pull the robes up above about the knee here, and so they can really be agile, mobile, not hostile, but where they can get out there and work, with some access to things. So she rolls up her sleeves, basically. That's the word. Verse 17. Verse 18. She perceiveth that all her merchandise is good. So she's not dealing with junk. She's very quality focused. When coming in, she's up early, but at night her candle goes not out by night. Doesn't mean she doesn't sleep. Certainly she sleeps. She needs to. But what you're seeing here, she maximizes her days. She is quite a woman. And then verse 19, she lays her hands to the spindle, her hands to the staff. So she's running a business basically out of her home. I mean, how does she do all these things? I have no idea. But she is by the grace of God. She stretches out her hand to the poor. And that's a quality, guys, I would look for in a woman. Is she selfish, self-focused, all about her, narcissistic? And how does she treat her parents? I would ask the ladies, how's that guy treat her mom, his mom? If he treats her like trash, he'll probably treat you like trash. Watch how he treats parents. But in this case, she cares for other people. She's not greedy. She's looking around. If there's someone with a need, she's all over it. You know, man, I admire that kind of lady that is willing to share their resources to help others who are less fortunate. She reaches forth her hands to the needy, so she's all in. Whatever she can do to help. It's not all about her. So that charitable spirit. Verse 21, she's not afraid of the snow for her household. Why? She's prepared for winter. She's got everything that the kids need. All her household are clothed in scarlet. I mean, they're prepared. They're ready to go. Nothing sneaks by her.
Right in those days, you know, the thoughtfulness. I mean, you just didn't go out to Walmart to get clothing. It was the idea of planning ahead. This woman, she looked ahead at what was coming, and so to make things out of scarlet, that was not a typical color. It was going the extra mile for the color of what she needed, and so that's a big deal. And I have to say, for us in our marriage, one of the most important things I think that we have done through the years has been helpful to me because he's got such a busy schedule. I'm pretty busy myself most of the time. It's getting together and just planning together so you kind of have an idea of what time do you have and what are you going to do with that time.
Yeah. Planning, and then even with this, she's preparing something physically for her kids, family. You know, for us, we don't have family here, so we're away from home. So we have to plan even harder to do things for our family from afar. And like Christmas gifts, it's getting to the point is, please, Dad, Mom, don't buy us any clothing. We hate when you buy us. We like money or gift cards. So gift cards and money seems to be always in style, but we always plan things. We're making things. Nearly every trip we go home for the year, we're packing a suitcase of Christmas gifts. We hide them in the closets that are in my parents' house or elsewhere. And it just takes time just to plan, prepare, to buy, to wrap, those type of things. And this girl does this.
Another thing too, when we moved into the house, when we downsized from that first house, there were 7 apple trees in our backyard in this new house. And I thought, what do I do with all these apples? And so the resources that were there, I mean, we didn't buy that house for the apples in the backyard. But all of a sudden I have 7 trees producing apples, and I'm thinking I can't waste them. So, just taking that resources in front of me. So now we have all kinds of applesauce and apple butter. And it did take some time to do that, but it wasn't my typical thing to want to make applesauce and apple butter, but those resources were there. And so it kind of got me to where I needed to go.
Do you sell any of them?
We give them out as gifts.
Yeah, was it last year or the year before? I think everyone in this class got apple butter.
Yeah, I think that was like a year ago.
Was it? Yeah. Sarah and little Jackson gave out my apples.
What do you think of bringing Gavin this week? It's just for special people.
I mean, I always have enjoyed apple butter, so.
Okay, yeah.
It's
very buttery apple.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, guys, let's finish this up. So she makes her coverings for 22 of tapestry, very good quality. Again, her clothing silk and purple. Wow, she's a queen. Again, a quality focus.
And again, purple was extremely expensive, usually used for royalty. And it was made from the little shells in the sea. And so they had to extract the coloring, the dye they made from them. And it was extremely lengthy to accomplish. It was a lot of work. So whether she went and found that dye somewhere else or made it herself.
Secretion of the mollusk. Yes. Okay. So this is no easy stuff. This is time consuming. It's intentional. It's special. Twenty-
One more, sorry.
That's right.
Fine linen, whenever you read that, there should be a country that pops into your mind, and that would be Egypt. A lot of the special linens and so forth came from Egypt.
That's exactly right. In fact, that word there that is used is an Egyptian word. Okay, verse 23. Her husband's known in the gates, and if we've been over to Israel a number of times, and these cities would have gates as you come in from the outside into the city, and that gate area is where basically local law was established before. Maybe where you grew up, those gates probably still there. So very important place. That's where men would go and make decisions. And here he would be able to participate there among the elders. He was known there. He was an honorable man. She didn't undermine his leadership in the community. Instead, she promoted it. Verse 24, she makes fine linen, sells it. Now is the selling part. So some things are for the family, some she gives to the poor. Here she makes it in business at home, delivers these different things unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing. So what does she wear? Obviously, she wears clothing with strength and honor. She's honored. She's attired in honor. She shall rejoice in time to come. There is a reward for this kind of woman. Verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom. And again, it's amazing today, let's say you go to a Rockies game. Woe is us if we do. I mean, if you go, they're going to lose. But you go, it's a beautiful stadium. And here's inevitably, you have these two girls walking by, and in one case, it was with Alan Elder. And very attractive girls, right kind of kitty corner from us, until they open their mouths. As soon as that one girl opened her mouth, it's like, oh, that's just vulgar, dropping every word imaginable, just vulgar. So just inappropriate, so not fitting. So this woman, she opens her mouth. It's not trash talk. It's not vulgar. It's not coarse. It's not crude. It's with wisdom. And in her tongue is a law of kindness. So this is a quality, you ladies, as you govern your home as house managers and do life there. How do you communicate? And a lot of homes are filled with anger, a lot of rage, where people are unkind. The husband should set the tone for the home with his kindness. But here, that the law that should govern communication at home should be kindness. Your kids shouldn't be saying, as soon as I'm 17, as soon as that clock gets 18, I'm out of here. I'm not coming back to this place. I can't stand this place. It's a war zone. I hate this place. And some of I had that background. I understand what that's like. Man, I couldn't wait to get out. So you don't want that. You want your kids to have a safe place, the place they love, where there's kindness that's ruling, and you can be respected there. It's a safe haven. So a beautiful text here, verse 26.
I think out of all the Bible, this is one of those verses that has helped me govern my own speech. New Testament, it says, let your speech always be seasoned with grace. But here, it says the law of kindness. So if you go down the street, you see the speed limit signs.
They're suggesting.
Yeah. And so it's the law. You can break the law by going past those signs. But sometimes our speech is like that, where you're right at the limit of what you should say, and you have a choice whether to hit the gas and say more,
And
or
blast.
okay, you're gonna stay back. Okay, but it's a law, the law of kindness. That means you feel so strongly about this that you don't allow yourself to break that law. And that's not always easy, is it? So you want to hit the gas.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
But
Thank you. Verse 27, she looks well to the ways of her household. Again, is the management side. There's no idleness, no bit of idleness. She works. She's really amazing. And as a result of that, look at the response within the family. Verse 28, her children arise up. They call her blessed. They love her mom. They're so proud of her, and they realize her value. Her husband also he praises her. And then this book ends, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. So what we're looking at here is something very hard to find. And this is top shelf. I mean, this is the high gold standard to as ladies to aspire to. And it's interesting on the beauty side, it is referenced here in verse 30. And when we get to the Song of Solomon in about 3 weeks, Solomon has chemistry with the Shulamite. He's very attracted to her physically. She's gorgeous. But Solomon is also stressing the integrity, the character, these other qualities that you look for. And obviously, you want someone you're attracted to, but you want someone who has these kind of characteristics or going in these good directions. So favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. I mean, short-lived is the idea. It's beautiful, but things change over time. But a woman that fears the Lord. So I love that little phrase, a woman that fears, respects the Lord, honors the Lord. This is the secret of her godly character. How is she like all these other things we just read? She feared God. She loved God. She respected God. And that drove her to be the kind of woman that's described. And such woman, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gates. So she doesn't have to brag about herself. Others will do that for her. Especially her husband, kids, and others will see, wow, that is quite a woman. So the virtuous wife, wow, 22 verses, a beautiful poem. So Callie, we okay?
I think so.
This was for Callie.
Sorry.
And your companions. It's a powerful section. I mean, so we have 5 minutes, maybe a few minutes. So ladies, your response to that kind of passage, what is your first reaction to it? I'm curious.
I'm in trouble.
Okay. All right, so a little work to do, maybe. Any other responses?
Just a lot of growth to happen.
Yeah, a lot of growth. Join the gang, we all got to grow. Yeah, that's a great way to respond. So, okay, I see it. I want to be that. I got some room to grow. Good. Katie, how about you? What are you thinking on this passage?
Good.
It's good. Okay, it's good. Prudence.
Well, I really like what this is saying about verse 26. So I'm actually really going to watch my speech.
Yeah, we don't need to watch your speech better. The speech, that's where we all get in trouble. We say stupid things, we respond. Yeah, it's a speech. Good, excellent. And I love what Lisa said. Discussion. Your response.
It's a hard passage for sure, but I think it definitely provokes a lot of thought and growth, and just a lot of things that, especially as modern young women, we don't think about, that have been just like for young men that have been taken out of our culture and our society. So it's just a good way to refocus.
Yeah, it's a good thing to look at. And it answers questions. Sometimes I'll be asked, is it okay for a wife to work outside the home? Well, look at her. She did. She had business. You know, it didn't undermine her, her parenting as a mother. This thing addresses a lot of those type of practical questions. Debbie, your response. I'm curious.
I have failed a lot. I have a lot of work to do. It's encouraging, but at the same time.
Let me ask your son, Jake.
No, don't put him on the spot, no. No, see, he has to say something.
That was a good response. I think you need to stand. So Jake, stand. And say, Mom, you're blessed. Mom says that her kids are rise. Thank you.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. That was me. Oh, darling.
Put him on the clock.
Yes. Of course. Thanks a lot. You got a great mom.
I want to say a footnote to what you just said about the mother working outside the home. In our today's culture, with all the statistics, with broken homes, with kids that are in single parent homes, with all of the rising things in suicide and so forth, I really think what's happened is mothers, fathers have taken their influence out of the home and gone in the workplace, wherever that is. So the thing with this virtuous woman is that she not only did have her work outside, but as you read through this, her priority is taking care of her home, managing her home, and all the needs are met in her home. And that seems to be the priority, and that allows her to go and even though it's not written right here, she can then go do these other things because she's managed her home.
She doesn't neglect her kids.
She seems to also be doing it for the purpose of her
Strengthening
family,
at home.
not to further herself.
Yeah.
Right, and one other thought on that too, sometimes we'll have people withdraw so much to their own home that they aren't reaching out to the poor. And so their kids grow up in this bubble where everything's focused so much on their home that they don't realize that there are many needs outside of themselves and they can help to meet those needs. So I always admire women when I see them who are managing their homes well, but then as they raise their children, that they're teaching them how to give, how to serve, how to minister to people around them. And we have one lady who was our neighbor. She just got a blue ribbon in this. She always knew what her neighbors were up to, was always ministering to her neighbors, teaching her kids how to do things, serve, minister, give. I remember once with Jim, I told him I'd give him 6 months. He needed to find, I felt like he was going to youth group. He was doing all these things, going to church, but he was always taking in. He wasn't giving. So I thought, give you 6 months to find something, some area that you would like to minister or give, serve others. And I said, at the end of the 6 months, if you don't have anything,
I'll find you something.
I'll find you something, okay? And so at the end of 6 months, he said, Mom, I don't really have anything to do. I said, okay, and you'll sing in the choir, but you can quit the choir when you come up with your own thing. Well, there was a family in the church that had a Down syndrome child. And so what he did, he started working with that child. And so, okay, great, you can stop singing in the choir. You found this, and he really developed friendships. He learned to grow in that way. But, that's part of the training. It's not just keeping your kids safe, okay, and doing all of those things. But it's just such a big circle and a lot to be thought of.
That's good. I will pray for us. Those are excellent comments. And do not, ladies, let anyone intimidate you to say you have to be this professional career girl. You shouldn't have any interest in being a mother or doing life at home. That's a lie. That's a lie. You see, this is the lady. She had a blend of these things and balance and priority.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say, my generation, when my kids were small, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I was the only woman in my neighborhood who was staying home with their children. And some of my neighbors would tell me how they felt bad, but they wanted to give their kids more things. There were just so many different ideas of why they were working, and none of them really held water, and they felt guilty. Some mothers left their 6-month-old child at a daycare center, 6 a.m., didn't pick them up till 6 p.m., and that was the standard. And so how can you take care of your home that way? So I'm all for ladies that are very capable of working out, doing things like that. But the first priority from a biblical standpoint is, I believe, managing your home, and that's a big job.
kids certainly like things, but they want a mom more than things. Okay, I'll pray for us. Lord, thank you for our time together, and thank you for this incredible passage on the virtuous wife and all these qualities. And so I pray for our ladies here that you help them as they grow in their desires to be like this woman, perfect balanced woman. And then Lord, for us as men, help us to be godly men, help us to follow the model of your son, who's the perfect man, and strive to be like him. And Lord, bless our relationships, future relationships, that you build godly homes. We know if we have strong homes, we'll have strong churches. If we have strong churches, we'll have a strong country. So Lord, bless us, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.